Hey there, folks. This is Screen Watching. It's our weekly deep dive into what we've been watching on the screens. That's TV, that's movies, it's all of them. It's the watch and stuff. I don't know. There's fewer watch reviews than you'd think. I've got a lot of thoughts about complications, but that's neither here nor there. Folks, you know that movie Independence Day? There's that sequence where the alien ship crashes down and Will Smith's heading towards it on the sand. The ship opens up and an alien comes out and Will Smith punches it in the face and then says, "Welcome to Earth." I don't know about you, I don't know what was going on in the life of that alien specifically, but I have to say, the experience of just opening up a door and getting punched in the face by someone feels exactly how I feel on a regular basis right now. Simon Foster, thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty much what we bring to the podcasting stratosphere every week. We are the you open the door and I punch people in the face, and that's kind of what our podcast is. Hello, everyone. Hello, Dan Barrett. Hello to screen watchers everywhere.
Okay, folks, this is what we've got coming up on the show. There is a film that has a rather gorgeous-looking poster, but does the movie live up to the promise of the poster? We'll find out as Simon delves into A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. I believe this is Margot Robbie's follow-up to the very successful Barbie movie. It's not, a sequel or anything. She's just made a movie since because she's an actress and they do that sort of thing where they're in more than one thing. But anyway, Simon will talk about that. Me, I'm taking a look at Black Rabbit. This is the latest Jason Bateman, Jude Law TV series. It's got crime. It's got filters on the cameras. It's a whole production. Going to deep dive into that. What else have we been watching? Great question. We're going to do some very quick run passes at Kangaroo, which I'm going to assume is an Australian movie. There's a TV movie called Swiped. Simon's going to be taking a look at that. Sure, won't watch a Spike Lee movie, but he's more than happy to watch the movie about the woman that created Bumble. Then, me, The Morning Show. We're up to season 73 of this TV program. I cannot stand this thing. I've watched every single episode of it, and I'm going to offer you my angry take in just a couple of minutes' time. Folks, this is Screen Watching.
This is not like TV, only better.
Television! Teacher! Mother!
Secret lover.
What, that's it? That's your movie?
Well, I said that I had an idea for a movie.
Alright, Simon, when I was talking about being punched in the face, what I kind of feel like is that there's just this constant assault on us in all sorts of ways, and I kind of really felt it with the Jimmy Kimmel business during the week. It just kind of felt like there's just something particularly pernicious and nasty taking place right now, and I just kind of really felt that one.
Yeah, I didn't know if we were going to touch on it. It's been on my mind a lot of late. In the scheme of what that authoritarian dictator has done in the course of his tenure in the White House, it's sort of in the middle.
Let's not get crazy with the terms. I don't think he's there just yet, but there's definitely. Let's drop in the word aspiring.
Yeah, he's definitely he's in the Hungarian-Turkey sort of mould at the moment. He's certainly headed for the Russia-North Korea upper echelon, let's just say that. What happened over this past week I find abhorrent and terrible and just indicative of a country that when I was growing up and everything that was influencing my life was American and I had my rose-coloured glasses on looking at it, it was the country that I absolutely looked up to and represented all the things that it claimed to represent, and now it's kind of everything that I hate about the world, and that hurts me to say that, and I put it all in his lap. So anyway, I'm having a bit of a rant here, which we don't normally do, but it is something that's irking me.
Yeah, look, I certainly feel that sort of betrayal as well. The thing that I guess has really resonated with me this week is just this idea that, and this is the story that really just kind of crystallized that, yes, it's all on. I feel as though if you asked me a decade ago, could America slide into the position it's in, like, so quickly, I never would have thought that was possible. I would have thought, it's a thing that takes 30, 40 years for that to really sort of take hold. But no, it just proves to me that democracies really do sort of, they are so fragile and can just turn, on a dime. So this is obviously, there's elements of this that have been part of an ongoing project, I guess, for the last sort of 20, 30 years. But it's really only, it's like bankruptcy. It's happening slowly and suddenly it happens all at once.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I can't add any more to it than that. I think what you've summed it up perfectly there. We're in such a period of change now. How the country and their democracy recovers from it, is it ever going to be what it was?
No.
I can't imagine that, as long as the internet exists, as long as the vacuum that is internet consumption continues to suck minds and brains into its oblivion, then I don't think we'll ever regain. It's such a divided nation, and it's such all the ugliness that has been simmering below the surface since post-war America or prior to that, but specifically post-war America is now at the surface, and it's as bad as it's been. I
am very excited now as we delve into what will be a review of 5 or 6 American TV shows and movies. So, folks, this is Screen Watching. We're going to take our first look at a American movie called A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, but I would say that it's not just American. There is a very Australian star right at the centre of it, and I forget who the male lead is, so whatever. So, let's watch the clip. Simon can tell me who's co-starring in this joint.
So we live in the same city.
Are you gonna ask me out?
Would you like to be asked out?
Wouldn't be worth the risk.
Do you want an onion ring?
Please. This is the only ring I'll be getting from you. You headed back to the city?
I might make a little detour. I'm a big fan of scenic routes.
Me too.
Why are you single?
I suppose I haven't met the right one yet. What about you?
I'm meant to be alone.
You really believe that?
Yes, well, it co-stars, as we all saw in the clip there, a certain Colin Farrell. So you've got two of mankind's gene pool miracles in Colin Farrell and Margot Robbie up on the big screen.
Neither American.
Neither American, nor, and I will point this out, is the director. It's a man named Cogonado. He's a South Korean director who most recently had an art house success with the very lovely, very still movie called After Yang, which Colin Farrell also starred in. What we have here, I'm going to take a little bit of a sidetrack here and tell a very brief story. I'm not going to go on too long. One of the great things I do with my life is I spend huge parts of my day trying to get out of my responsibilities, trying not to do the work I have to do. This week, that took the shape of watching some old UFO documentaries. I watched a show called Encounters, which was kind of a big deal on Netflix a couple of years ago, and which I've seen before, and which I think I talked about on the podcast. In one of the episodes of that, it spoke of Japanese, Eastern cultures' belief and acceptance in all things supernatural. So when someone in Japan reports an amazing UFO sighting, people don't immediately poo-poo it or bring skepticism. They sort of say, well, that can happen. Sure, let's listen to what they have to say. And I say that because this is a film which takes a really big swing at magical realism. It literally says you just have to accept that these two people, Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell, are somehow forced together in life, forced into the same car, and forced by some mystical GPS device to go on a journey. And that journey takes them to a series of doors that are in paddocks or behind billboards or all those sort of things. And they open those doors and they're thrust back into a moment in their lives when things didn't go great for them. Moments that defined who they became as adults and why they're alone now, why they have trouble finding love, why they prefer to travel alone. And so this film is a journey that they go on to discover themselves so that at some point they can then give themselves wholly and honestly over to the person that they fall in love with. Now, that these two beautiful movie stars are destined to fall in love on screen doesn't come as any surprise. What does come as a surprise...
I love the idea of someone in the audience who are like, oh my God, they got together.
They got together. Yeah, no, exactly. The biggest surprise this movie has to offer is how dull the whole journey is. How it takes so little time to establish that connection with the supernatural. And I started this review by saying maybe it's an Eastern philosophy thing where you just accept that in your storytelling. And this UFO documentary that I watched sort of quoted the Miyazaki film Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro, how in those worlds the human characters and the make-believe characters in make-believe worlds just interact. They just are. And that's what Cogonado wants you to believe in A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. Magical realism is such a tough thing to pull off in movies when it's done really well.
Which is almost never.
Which is, I before this review, I sat down, I said, what are the ones that work well? And I had to go back to Pleasantville. Pleasantville, I thought, was a terrific movie and captured that magical realism beautifully. And then I'm kind of stumped. Maybe a little bit of Truman Show, like that's kind of got a bit of magical realism in there as well. But it doesn't work in Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. It's about two people sitting in an old car travelling between paddocks and opening doors and then thrust into these worlds where they don't question how they got there, they just sort of talk about the meaning of it. The film's oddest misjudgment, and that's really saying something, is the character played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She puts on this very thick German accent and talks like this through much of the film. She's in charge of the car rental company that gives them this old jalopy that they have to travel around in. And she's got a very foul mouth, so she's kind of like this Germanic, foul-mouthed, Cupid type of character. I swear to God, it reminded me of some bad Monty Python sketch. It was like, what are you trying to do here? It's totally at odds with the rest of the film. By her side is Kevin Kline, who looks kind of bewildered through the whole thing. He's not quite sure what's going on. And it pains me to say that as hard as I tried to like this film, and it's not a film that you come away hating, it's just a film you come away and go, yeah, that's a misfire. Nothing worked there. These actors don't have chemistry. This story doesn't work. I don't know what sort of audience is going to settle in for this. It'll probably have a big opening weekend just because those two are in it. But to think of Americans coming back for repeat viewings on this, or this travelling through, most Western cultures, it's going to be a very tough sell for everyone involved. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a Colin, Farrell, Margot, Robbie film. So A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey is a big, dull misfire as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, look, if it's any consolation, I don't think this is expected to do much in the way of box office anyway, so... Which
is astonishing with those two involved, and it becomes so literal in the way they talk about their past selves and the way they just accept these fantasy worlds are happening around them. It's such a strange film that like I say, I did really want to like where this film was taking me, and some of the artistic choices are interesting, but overall, it's a friend of ours. I saw it with Kay. I've never seen her so mad. She felt so upset with this film and left muttering under her breath a whole lot of swear words. So yeah, it's going to put people offside.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Simon, let's move on. We're going to go to another star-driven vehicle. This is a new Netflix limited series. It's called Black Rabbit. Let's play the clip.
Brother? Should've fucking told you. I know.
You said to my face you'd squared it.
I thought I could pay these guys back at a sure thing.
How much do you owe him, Vince?
Big number.
What do you think happens? You don't pay back a loan for 3 years.
Ain't such a big number for you, big deals.
Here's the Black Rabbit.
Okay, we saw the video there. The premise of this one, you've got the owner of a New York City up-and-coming restaurant played by Jude Law. This is a restaurant that he had founded in the years gone by with his brother, who... It's the never-do-well brother, or ne'er-do-well, a phrase I've never really tried saying out loud in my life before. The ne'er-do-well brother, played by Jason Bateman, he went off to, pursue a life of, substance abuse and gambling addiction. As we see them sort of reunite in this one, Bateman's now looking very sort of scraggly. He's got this big, massive beard. He's got crazy hair. But, he needs some money. He's, comes home. Jude Law, sort of takes him in, gives him some money. He's come back to town, which I'm pretty sure is New York City. I said that at the beginning. Their mothers died recently. We know from some fairly on-the-nose dialogue that, there's been some issues with their father in the past. There seems to be some sort of family secrets going on. There's certainly stuff going on. Bateman, as he comes back to town, the criminals that he had taken about it's maybe about $70,000, but, it's been a couple of years since they've tacked on some money on the end of it. They're coming for their $140,000. He's like, oh, we're selling Mum's house. I'll be able to pay for that in a couple of weeks' time. And so, it's... what we've got here is a very well-worn story about a family member who's dealing with gambling addiction, which is brought into criminal elements, and then that criminal element's brought further into the family and is corrupting it from within. Like, we've seen this so many times before, but just because we've seen a story a whole bunch of times before doesn't necessarily mean that we can't be up for a good yarn and an enjoyable ride. Unfortunately, this is a lot of sort of fairly flush production value because there's a lot of Netflix money in this one. You've got a raft of directors of... Let me just run you through a couple of the directors on this.
I was about to say, who's the talent behind this? Because it sounds
directing isn't necessarily the same as the talent actually writing it, so we're going to get to that in a sec. But in terms of direction, just for the way that this looks, Jason Bateman, who's no slouch when it comes to directing. He's done quite a number of TV shows, notably Ozark, a show that he starred in, produced, created, sort of really built that up from the ground. But he's here directing the first 2 episodes of this. His Ozark co-star, Laura Linney, directed a couple of episodes of Ozark, got some, skills there. She's directing the next 2 episodes of this one. There's a guy named, who I don't know, Ben Seminoff, who he's done a fair bit of TV work, Ozark, and a bunch of fairly prestige-orientated shows since. And then Justin Kurzel is doing the final 2 episodes.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's a quality director.
Now, Justin Kurzel, I'm pretty sure, comes through this in that, one, his last movie was The Order, which starred one Jude Law, but also the guy that wrote and produced The Order is this guy named Zach Braylon, who's the gentleman who's written this one. Now, his co-producer from The Order, Kate Sussman's the other co-creator on this. So this feels very much like the next project coming from them as a creative unit. Now, I never saw The Order.
Great.
It was great. Okay, well, I kind of feel that I missed out on something by not seeing The Order, but if I'd never seen Black Rabbit, I don't think I would have missed anything here, because what they've constructed here feels just as lightweight as one of those sort of NBC TV shows that got cancelled after about 4 or 5 episodes in 2008. It's very... It just feels very network. It's one of those shows which, post The Sopranos, there was this 10-year period where networks, NBC was the guiltiest of them, just produced a lot of high-end prestige dramas going, we can do these cable dramas too, but it never really felt authentic and it never really felt like it had any substance to it. It was just a lot of surface telling of some pretty basic crime stories. And that's what this is. The first episode of this runs about 1:05, and it feels like it's a 40-minute NBC procedural, but boy, does it stretch itself out to reach that 1:05. It's a premise pilot you see in this first episode, which is kind of fine. And I do ask generally on this podcast for TV to feel a bit more like TV does, which means to not feel like an 8-hour movie. But even so, if you're going to do a premise pilot, there just needs to be a bit more substance to it if you're asking for us to stick around for another 7 episodes after this. It's just a bit off. Something of this sort of level of surface is fine if it's a show that you can dip in and out of. If it's just on NBC, the idea is that you're not maybe watching every episode, but you come back and watch episode 3 and then 5, and then just whenever it's, you're at home to watch it. It's asking you to watch every episode, and I'm just not there for it.
I sense by your review that it is unlikely that people looking for rabbits, black or of any colour, will not find it in this show.
There's certainly some imagery in the way that the restaurant is called the Black Rabbit and their logo is a rabbit. But I don't expect you'll see much in the way of carrots or entertainment.
Very little rabbit activity in the heart of New York City, as I'm led to understand. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm no scientist, but maybe.
You know what? Sorry, just as an aside, I was in the Sydney CBD just a couple of days ago. I was there with my little kid, and we were in World Square, which is smack bang in the middle of the CBD.
Concrete jungle.
I looked up, and I'm like, oh, look, upstairs, there's some sort of playground. Let's go take a look and see what that is. Get up there, find that it's a daycare centre, so we couldn't go and use the playground equipment. But as we were walking out, I was like, hey, take a look at this statue of a rabbit. Anyway, we looked at this rabbit statue, and then it came alive and just started hopping around the place. It was the pet for the daycare centre, just hanging out there in the CBD.
Look at that. The review come full circle. When I thought there'd be no rabbit talk, here we are, talking rabbits.
You know what? Of the review followed by the story about me seeing a rabbit, which one was I more excited by? I think that really says everything.
Yes, I know. Email is screenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com. Were you more interested by the review or the rabbit story?
No one was interested by that review. It was a terrible review, but... Folks, like, it's fine. I don't know. There's an audience for this, I guess, but it's like the same sort of undermining audience that might stick around for a show like The Morning Show, which we'll talk about in a few minutes.
So essentially, we're reviewing our two big reviews this week. Feature some of film and TVdom's most beautiful people making shows and movies far below what their visage, their aesthetics would hope they make. That's disappointing.
Not everything can be a winner.
No, that's true. Boy.
Okay, let's quickly move on.
For all of us.
Come on, let's snap to it. What have we got, Simon? What else have you been watching?
Well, what else have I been watching? Gee, I should look at the list to find out. Oh, of course, yes. I was watching a new Australian film called Kangaroo. I went to the movies and saw this. This is the story of, and it's apparently based on a true story, of a weatherman played very well by Ryan Corr, who I quite like when he's in the right thing. He decides terrible things happen to him in his city job, so he decides to head bush. On a trip across Australia, he does that thing where he hits a kangaroo that has a joey in the pouch. That leads him to the lovely Lily Whiteley, who's a teenager who is still grieving her dad, and they find a connection in helping to raise this baby Joey. This is very much from an Australian sort of film history that includes things like, at the very best, Storm Boy. And there are moments in this when you want it to be Storm Boy and it wants to be Storm Boy. For those that don't know, Storm Boy was a beautiful 70s film about a young boy and a pelican. This has moments. When it leans into its characters, it almost finds those Storm Boy moments, the connection between this sort of troubled older guy, the young troubled girl, the lost little Joey. But then it takes these sort of risk-averse kind of pivots. I guarantee the director, Kate Woods, who did the terrific Looking for Ella Brandy, she was not all over the text message montage or some of the fart jokes and that they put in this. It seems to want to live in this middle ground somewhere between how great it could have been with Storm Boy and how risk-averse it really is, kind of like a Red Dog sort of thing. So I liked it, but I could have been better. The other thing I watched was this movie called Swiped, which is on the Hulu. It stars the very
or in Australia on the Disney Plus.
On the Disney Plus, well spotted. It tells the story of a young woman, Madison Wolfe, I think her name was, from memory. It's been a couple of weeks since I watched it. She was right at the forefront of developing the Tinder app, the dating app, but was then squeezed out by a very misogynistic group of directors. She went on to launch Bumble, which was a more female-focused app, providing the same function from a female perspective. And this is the story, very Me Too influenced, how she rose above the experience she had at Tinder and was able to shine in a business role over at Bumble. Very entertaining, probably a little bit more lightweight than I was expecting. Lily James is very good. It's a very frantic film. It doesn't always have time to breathe and tell its story and explore its characters, but it is very watchable. You pick, as soon as the first two guys come onto the scene, they're these young dude bros, techie bros. You just know things are going to go bad for her. She doesn't quite spot that as quickly as the audience does, which is a bit frustrating. But I mean, telling this story and telling it this way was fine by me. So I had quite a good time watching this.
Yeah. Speaking of having a good time, I watched Apple TV Plus's The Morning Show.
All you do is talk about how you hate this, though.
I really do hate it. Like, it is absolutely the dumbest TV program that I've seen maybe ever in my life. So, The problem I've got with this show is that look, I'm going to use the line that I used in my newsletter, which went out as I record this about 36 minutes ago. So you probably haven't read this, Simon. But
no, I haven't.
Let me bring up the line. Every element of the writing in this show feels like it was written by highly medicated people aspiring it for it to be the soapiest of soaps.
Okay.
Like, they want this...
Which is okay if that's what it's aiming for.
No, but it's fine to be the soapiest of soaps, but I'm talking about highly medicated people. Like, this feels like people that are, you know, out on a couch somewhere, bit of drool coming down their chin, and thinking that they are really knocking it out of the park on this one, but they're just not. So, look, it's a bit hard talking about this season of it because every episode's under embargo until the episode drops. So, a lot of the really stupid naff stuff in the season I can't really sort of talk about at length. But The first episode, which is available now, so I can talk about that one, it's got two things in it which just really speak to just my frustrations with it, which is one... So if you've never seen The Morning Show, the idea is that you got Jennifer Aniston. She plays a long-time TV presenter, kind of in the same mold as... oh gosh, I've just forgotten her name.
Katie Couric.
Katie Couric is exactly who I had in mind. So she's like a Katie Couric sort, but a little bit younger, obviously. The first season has her paired with the Steve Carell character, who, much like Matt Lauer, has his Me Too moments. And so the show for the first 2 seasons is kind of in this weird sort of almost argument with Me Too as a concept. It was a very... It was weird. It was kind of like, while everyone was wanting to support Me Too, this was kind of a thing saying, well, what about the good men? That seems to be like the idea of the first couple of seasons.
It was the best angle to take.
It was always weird. It just like, that's not exactly what the show was saying, but also that was kind of like the vibe of it. It was, I don't know, it's just one of those things that felt culturally a little bit sort of off. But they changed the writing team from season 3 and 4 and presumably 5 onwards. But the problem was that the writing just never got better, which was really frustrating because it was never good to begin with. This is a troubled production from the outset, where they had a creator. It was a guy who had, I can't think of the dude's name. He was like a former White House comms guy. He created the show based on the Brian Stelter book Top of the Morning, which was about the Today Show. Created this thing. That guy was bumped off the show. It went through like quite a few changes and then kind of got birthed as the show that it is. But during that process, they just made all these mistakes that they never really corrected when they actually came to bring the show in. So one of the fundamental things is that the Reese Witherspoon character, when you watch the first couple of episodes of the show, she's written to be this woman who seems like she's in her early 20s, like she's kind of new to the industry, but she's a bit of an outsider and hasn't really found her way in. But when you cast Reese Witherspoon, where when the show was created, she was in her early 40s, maybe even getting close to her mid-40s, okay, this is a woman who has, like, life experience, but was never presented in the show. She was just written as, like, this sort of naive 20-something woman, and everyone sort of treated her that way. And so when you've got that as, like, the foundation for the character, when you try building on that and get further away from the idea of her being naive to the industry, they just never really found a way to, like, correct that. Like, she still feels just like this weird sort of character that's just not authentic to the world of the show or whatever. It's just like these constant mistakes being made throughout it. The first season of this show, I'm sure that Jennifer Aniston had a daughter and a husband, and I don't think I've seen them for like about 2 to 3 seasons at this point.
Well, they got squeezed out.
Like, it's just a weird show. And then the thing is, it's got high production values. It's got this sort of great cast that comes through.
People. Billy Crudup, Mark Duplass, Steve Carell, they've all done their time there.
Billy Crudup has never been worse on screen than he is in this. In fact, everyone in this has never been worse than they are on this.
It sounds to me like they're pitching an angle, they're pitching a feel, or they're pitching an ambience with this that is not connecting with you, and you're enjoying it because it's so antithetical to what, if that's a word, to what you would normally watch and enjoy.
I mean, the thing is, what's got me in there is that this is a show that is ostensibly about the media, but also is a show that doesn't understand the media, or, like, it's probably someone who understands the media in that they read the media section of the New York Times, and that's as far as their understanding of things actually goes. So it's kind of, reading about the media without ever actually consuming it. This season has a ongoing storyline with this manosphere guy. Okay, he's a Joe Rogan type. For some reason, this very vanilla TV network has decided to hire a manosphere guy. When you're watching it, they've clearly never even listened to like a Joe Rogan podcast. Like, this is the most sort of vanilla, basic idea. It kind of feels like it's remember when you watched in the 90s, there'd be like sports talk radio presenters?
Yeah.
And they'd be really over the top, and they'd be shouting in their microphones and be just like super angry. And I'm sure that sports radio has never really felt like it was depicted in movies. It feels exactly the same way, but without the sports.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably true.
Anyway, the show's just terrible. It's so junky. The first episode, Jennifer Aniston as your Katie Couric stand-in. Let's pretend that Katie Couric is who we're talking about here.
Really poked the bear with this one.
Katie Couric's hosting a breakfast TV program. Let's call it the Today Show. And she's interviewing a woman who is a young athlete who comes into her father slips Katie Couric a note saying, "Hey Katie, we'd like to defect from whichever country it is."
Oh my God.
Okay, what would Katie Couric do? The answer would be that Katie Couric would probably have a word with the producer and say, hey, look, I just got this note. Get in contact with, I guess in the US, it's the State Department. Okay, let's organize like some, the sit down that this person needs in order to have the defection take place. But the morning show version of this one, where the Jennifer Aniston character, she gets the note, she doesn't think to actually contact like anyone who can affect change. Instead, she finds a way to screw all these people out of the building into a waiting town car, which immediately gets noticed by the goons that are traveling with them. And so there's this silly chase sequence that takes place, and there's a smashed car at some point.
I've got to watch
it's just ridiculous.
All right, okay, so you'll know by now if you want to watch Morning Show. What are we up to, season 4?
Season 4. Season 5's just been greenlit.
Okay, what channel is it on? Because now I have to watch
This is on Apple TV+.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Gee, they do some good work, and then they do this.
Yeah, last week I spoke about a really good movie on there called Highest to Lowest, which Simon didn't watch.
Not watching that.
Yeah.
No interest.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to watch a Spike Lee movie, but go on.
No, have we haven't watched Hail to the Chief yet, which is the Jason Momoa. Is it Hail to the Chief? No, Chief of Heroes.
You're talking about Chief of War.
Chief
Meanwhile,
of War.
all I want to watch is Hail to the Chimp.
There's a Jason Momoa series on Apple.
It's called Chief of War.
Chief of War.
It's the second Jason Momoa TV series on Apple TV+.
Yes, it is. What was the other one?
What's that?
About the bikers? He was a biker in
No, it was one of their very first ones. Let me bring it up.
So we want to watch that, but we're not sure if we want to give over time to it. So send us an email, screenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, if you've seen the Jason Momoa series on the Apple TV, and tell us your thoughts on it. We are coming to the end of our Screen Watching podcast. You can read my things over on the Substack. Screen Space is the newsletter that you can subscribe to, free or paid. Yay! And get all your news, views, interviews, and analysis every week into your inbox. What do you do when you're not doing this, Dan Barrett?
Well, I'm often on Wikipedia looking up Jason Momoa's page, and I can tell you that his Apple TV Plus series from 2019 was one of the other launch titles for the Apple TV Plus streaming service. It was called C, and you could watch that when you weren't watching season 1 of The Morning Show, which was also one of those debut series.
Television.
Really is. TV. Indeed. But folks can find me at alwaysbewatching.com. It's a newsletter that delves into the world of TV streaming and a little bit of movie streaming in there as well. Simon, you're asking me what I'm going to do across my weekend. I'm going to sit down and watch the new Superman movie, which is now on HBO Max.
Yeah, how thrilling for you. How many's that? 4 times?
What, on HBO Max alone, or?
All over.
I've seen it twice in a cinema, and I have watched it once at home already, yes.
Oh my God. Not to mention, you will be going to see a certain Gabby's Doll's House, the new Kristen Wiig animated sort of kids movie. You'll be taking your little one off to see that at a special screening. How exciting for you.
I don't know why you think that's more exciting than watching the many hours of Gabby Dollhouse that I do on a weekly basis at home as part of the TV series.
Dan will be giving us a Gabby Dollhouse rundown in next week's episode of Screen Watching, so make sure you tune in for that. In a very similar vein is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in Smashing Machine, which is what I'll be reviewing on next week's podcast. So there's much to look forward to.
Actually, next weekend there's quite a few good things, including another Apple TV Plus series starring one Jessica Chastain. But, we'll get to that next week.
Sure.
Anyway, folks, this has been a Screen Watching podcast. We'll be back next week with hopefully some stuff that we're a bit more excited by.
Bye-bye.
Bye.